recorded on October 24th, 2012 in front of a live internet audience. This week's Design Chat is brought to you by CentUp, the world's first way to share content while also supporting its creators. Go to centup.org to sign up for the beta and find out more. That's CENTUP.org. And by The Pursuit of New York. They make hand-printed garments that artistically depict what New York embodies, the history and innovators, the hope and the despair, the destruction and the revitalization. Find them at pursuitofny.com.
Hello and welcome to Design Chat, the best live design discussion on the internet. I'm your host, Ryan McGovern. On Twitter, I'm at Hoopajube and at Design Chat. Every once in a while, we get together with some of the coolest people from the design community and chat. This week, we are talking to Mr. David Schwen. Bravo. You got a slow clap from the background. What is going on, Mr. Schwen?
Not much. I'm just chilling, talking to you. Just
drinking your Jameson?
Yes.
In a very classy coffee cup, I might add. I think my audio is a little hot. Is my audio freaking people out? I'm going to turn it down. Yes? Okay. Turning down my audio. And I'll start. Why does it say that? Okay. Cool. So the first thing we always do, here's the thing. We always have the guests kind of give who you are, what you do, and why you do it. The one thing I want to mention before I have you do that, though, is that you have a shit ton of work on the internet. It's everywhere. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of great work. But you don't have bios. You don't have a lot of information specifically about you. There's a couple interviews, but we had to dig for them. So I'm really interested to hear this part. You know, some history, you know, how you got started, you know, for people who aren't familiar with you.
Yeah. So I started going to art school at MCAD, Minneapolis College of Art and Design, and I was going to pursue illustration. Decided to change to graphic design, and basically found a job at Carmichael Lynch, like an advertising design studio, just right out of college, and I sat there for a while. So that was kind of the my job, the paying the bills sort of thing. And then on the side, I was, fostering all this other illustration work and just like my own work that I was just plowing through and just creating and always making. And, I always had a day job. I went to Fallon, I went to Mono, I was recently at Target, and now I'm recently just on my own. So a lot of the other stuff that you see on the internet or where else, it's my own stuff that I'm making for myself, and people coming to me and, having me create stuff for them, or it's Threadless, or, it's stuff that keeps me busy. So.
Well, you seem to be very busy with yes. Turn your volume back up halfway. My volume's screwed up. Sorry, guys. You seem to be very busy with all the things that you do. It's quite obvious, with a cursory search under your name and all the work that pops up. What I thought was really great is that all of the work that you do find really has the same sort of voice, right? It has the same tone. And that tone is, it's funny, it's pop culture, it's stuff that you might not get right away, but when you do, it's freaking hilarious. There's a lot of humor in your work. You really get a sense of who you are very quickly. So talk a little bit about, let's start with the t-shirt stuff that you've done at Threadless. I saw an interview where you were talking about, because if you guys aren't familiar with the process, so Threadless is a t-shirt company, and what happens is creative people submit designs to Threadless. If Threadless, the people then vote on those designs, and if your design gets picked, you get paid, and then that t-shirt actually gets produced and people get to buy it. So what David's been able to do successfully is submit and get a lot of these t-shirts bought, and then everybody can buy them, and they're really great work. So talk a little bit about the beginnings of that process for you.
Yeah, I spoke at the How conference Threadless brought me out there for a presentation where it was a panel of artists. Basically, it was talking about how you have to fail and how you have to go through all of that in order to succeed. And I think that that's what I ended up doing, was failing a lot before I got printed, and just like not giving up, just keep, you know, like churning stuff out, churning out ideas, finding my style. And then finally, you know, once you hit that zone of, you know, where, you know, you understand what the audience of Threadless likes, and just kind of the zone of what you feel comfortable making, then it, you know, things started to click, and it was just really, it was really fun after that, you know, and just, you know, seeing how, like, you know, your printed t-shirts are out in the world, and, you know, one of my shirts showed up on Modern Family, and that just blew my mind. Stuff like that, that's just super cool. It was the Woodchucks design, where it's the picture of the woodchuck, and he's wearing red chucks.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome. So I want to remind the audience real quick, we encourage you guys to ask questions, right? So there's a red submit a question button on the right side, I think it is. And you can, left side, so you can type in a text question, right? And submit it, and you get attributed, and we take it, and it shows up on the screen. It's really great. We get to talk about it. There's also a video, submitted video question. So if you've got a webcam, this is a really cool feature about being live for DesignChat, is you can get on video and ask your questions. So please, ask lots of questions. We're going to start taking them in just a little bit. The chat lasts 1 hour. It's 8:09 p.m. We're going to go till 9 o'clock tonight. So get lots of questions in early so we get to them. Cool. Yeah. So, you know, we could sit and pick apart every single one. The one that, like, the one image from one of the t-shirts that, like, it's burned in my head and I just can't make it go away, is the popped collar. So it's like a German Shepherd head, and it's sort of like pencil hand drawn. And then he's got like a Fonzie collar like this. I don't know what it is, but every time, like, I scroll past that, everything else is going. Like, that's all I can see is that dog, that popped collar. What, where, why, how is what I want to know.
I like to have a lot of humor in my work. You know, I don't know. I like to make people laugh. You know, and I like to have that kind of wit and humor that maybe it makes people, you know, invest a little bit of time into it, but once they get it, you know, it just makes them laugh a little bit. So, you know, I always start with the main idea, and that's how I start all my work. And I was just thinking about pop collars, and I'm like, what can I do with a pop collar? You know, it's terrible with all the people with pop collars, and, you know, why not put it on this dog that just feels, you know, he's acting like he's all that. So
he did have kind of a smug look, didn't he? It was perfect.
Yeah. So
is that the kind of thing, like, you use, like, is it like a friend's dog that you got a picture of, or did you actually sit him down and, like, try to draw him?
Yeah, no, that wasn't a friend's dog. That was just, you know, I was looking online and just found something and just kind of drew it from reference from there. So, but
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting about that whole process, to me anyway, is that, you know, you having a professional background, right, and working for agencies where you work for the agency works for the client, you have to answer to the client's needs. This is a completely different arena in which you are your own client, right? You know, you decide you want to have some fun by making these t-shirt designs, and then you're coming up with your own ideas. So maybe talk a little bit about the contrast between doing that type of work and doing the work for yourself.
Yeah, it's definitely really freeing, you know, doing this work for myself. You know, having a day job, or, you know, working on the strictly design work, you know, it's a little different where, you know, Threadless, it was such a freeing exercise. And even when I was working on my Make Something Cool Every Day project, where, you know, I was just making the stuff because it brought enjoyment to myself. You know, I'd be sitting on a bus and I'd come up with an idea and I would just make it, and it was just fun. So I think when you have that freedom, you're able to push yourself a lot more, you know, and you just, you don't get stuck in the, you know, when you're doing, you know, work for Apple or some client, you have this small box to work within. You know, it's just wide open. You just do whatever you want. So I think that's very freeing, and I think I grew a lot as a designer, illustrator, artist, you know, whatever. So I think it really opened up a lot of, you know, opportunity from that. So, yeah, but, I still enjoy working with clients. I'm not saying that, I don't bring my best work to the clients, and it's different, I think when I work on that client work, it is, very, idea based, and I always start with concept. So,
you said you did some work with Target. Was that with Target's in-house group?
yes, yep, yeah, I was there for just under 2 years. So,
See, I've talked to a lot of people who have worked with them sort of through an agency and there. I'm fascinated with Target as a company, as a whole. Just real quick, I was kind of poking around their site, and they've got a page that's sort of, it's dedicated to their views on design, and they had this, this quote sort of at the beginning that kind of struck me a little bit. I'm just going to read it really quick. So if you search on their site, you can find this. It says, "Great design is fun, energetic, surprising, and smart. And we don't just mean how something looks. It also satisfies a need, simplifies your life, makes you feel great, and it is affordable to all." And that's just really fascinating to me that a corporation as big as a Target has adopted that sort of philosophy, and it's not just in the products that they sell, but it's also in the way that they sort of do business, right?
yeah. Yeah, they were a great place to work for, and great bunch of people, and just I think at a place like that, they can't give up on design. They realize how important it is, and I think they're always gonna keep that as the strong point. So I think that's why Target is always pushing itself to be that pinnacle of always pushing design, always trying to keep the same voice. So I think that's why it, kind of helps steer them. So.
Now, the word design itself can be bent to means and be applied to so many different facets. So while you were in-house at Target, what sort of design were you working on?
It ranged a lot. It ranged from doing some art direction to design work. I worked on a Target race campaign where they have the Indy and the NASCAR teams, and I did some, hauler designs for that, and their kind of glorified giant trading cards. But, even with that work, I brought a playful, fun thing to it where we made the giant semi-trucks that carry their race cars look like they're carrying toy cars inside of packaging. And then their trading cards look like they're action figures inside inside the packaging. So I think there's always room to, bring that wink and playful humor to my, design work as well. So.
Oh, that's really cool. We've got a couple questions lining up from the audience. I'm going to start taking those earlier than I usually do because they're coming up sooner. And
Okay.
if you guys are just getting here, there's a red submit a question button. It means you can actually interact with us, and you submit a video question too. So please do that. So the first question coming from Patrick McGovern, I know that name, across from the table from me. What has your favorite piece of work thus far been thus far?
Piece of work. My work or other people's work?
Yours, I believe.
Mine?
You had to pick one. They're all your babies, but one is special.
I don't know if I have like a favorite.
You can't say that. You can't say I love them all. That's a cop-out.
No, quite the opposite. I think after I make something, I just want to push it away and just not look at it again because you spend so much time on something. But
so you hate your babies?
Yes. No, I think I really love the woodchucks, design, and I think it's just something that's just so simple and just so, it was just so intuitive. I thought of the idea on the bus ride to Mono where I worked at the time, and it was something that I just made so quickly because I was just so excited about it, and it was done. And I feel like those quick ideas I love the most because it's easy.
Now,
it's
would
quick.
you still feel the same way if that T-shirt hadn't shown up on Modern Family?
Yes.
You didn't hesitate at all, so I know you're telling the truth. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean that's cool and everything, but it's just a fun design, and I enjoy, seeing people's reaction to it and stuff. So
Now, where do you think, because the lines are blurred a little bit. Like you can definitely call that stuff design, but some people, might look at that and say, well, no, that's just illustration. But like, how do you define that for yourself?
God, it's so tough, and I think that's why, I started out as illustration, when I first went to college, and I had a professor in my first design class that, he basically said there are no lines, between design and illustration. And I feel that way too, because I can go and work on a typography piece that's strictly type and love working on that, to a strict, illustration piece, to art directing a photo shoot. And it's just, I think I like to just look at everything as just this main idea. And once, you have that idea, like, it doesn't really matter what you're making. So I think that's kind of how I approach it.
Mitch Goldstein in the chat. What's up, Mitch? Past guest and a suggester of many people on this show, suggester of good interviews. Asked immediately after I asked that question, he said, "Does it need to be defined?" And Andrew was kind of messing with him. He's like, "Yes, no, yes, no." I don't know. I don't think I was asking that question because I think that that term or in general, like a populace has to be able to draw that line. But I think when people are creating things for themselves, you have a tendency, I do anyway, to sort of categorize the job that I'm doing, to sort of frame it, and have a reference for myself. So I don't know if I, was saying that it necessarily needs to be, put in a box and it stays in that box. But I think that everybody, draws those lines for themselves.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's true. I think, there are some people that do strictly want to just stick to a certain area of, whatever it is, just design or illustration, or, maybe they want those lines. But I've always approached it where I don't want to have a set style. I know I have a few styles that, come to the surface more, but I always want to try to reinvent myself and kind of evolve what I'm making, and then at the same time have a lot of variety, in my work. So I think that's kind of been my, my own way of working. So
you've got this section on your site on, I think it's dschwen.com. Is that right? Is that the URL? I know it popped up in the chat earlier.
Yes.
MSCE, make something cool every day, and you mentioned it just earlier. And could it be completely self-explanatory? But was that a project where you put pressure on yourself to literally every day, and how long did it go on?
I didn't make it a full year. I made it, I think, just over half a year. So I think there was other things that came up, and I was, forced to put a little halt on that. But yeah, I think that was the one thing that I think pushed myself to grow as an artist and as a designer, just always making something. And I forced myself to make something, whether it was some sort of photo, illustration, or some, whatever it was. I made something every single day. And I think that exercise is so good for a creative person to go through, because, you throw everything out the window that you usually, are comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And I think that, opened a lot of doors for me. After that, I had, I'd gotten an email from Wired magazine, and they wanted me to do some illustration work for them. And I was kind of curious. I was like, oh, what kind of style, or what do you, what have you seen that you want me to do? And they sent me, it was 3 different JPEGs of the work from that Make Something Cool Every Day project. So, I was doing the stuff for free for myself, but it ended up, helping me out in the long run. So.
Mitch in the chat room wanted to know, did you backlog any designs for the MSCE project?
There was a few that I had to, when you're churning stuff out, sometimes you do a series of things, and when you're working on a series of designs, sometimes, like, I felt it was good to try to work on them at the same time. So some of them I did backlog, so technically I might not have made, you know, like the thing that I posted, I might not have made that day, but I was always making stuff every day during that process. So
We got another question here from Gary Holmes, who asks, you seem very versatile with different creative styles. Do you challenge yourself to try new mediums?
yes, yes, absolutely. I think whenever I start feeling like I get stuck in a certain style, I try to break it. And I think that when I did that Make Something Cool Everyday project, I broke it a lot. And I was making 3D things, I was making sculptures, I was making, you know, stuff out of paper. And I think that that was just, you know, to free myself and get away from the computer and just having that freedom. But, you know, I think right now, since I've been doing that, I've been getting a lot of illustration work that they see those things. And I've been doing a lot of clay, you know, illustrations and just this 3D photo illustrations, which I love doing. But I think, you know, I'm reaching that point where I want to start breaking it up again and just exploring and trying to, you know, kind of reinvent myself again. So I think that's kind of my process.
Is there any medium that you sort of started to get into and you realized, you know, it was something that you just didn't have a grasp on, or this is a mistake, I know I'm never going to work in this medium again?
Yeah. You know, I dabbled in motion graphics for a while right out of college. You know, I really enjoyed it. It was something that it was interesting because you had the timing and you had music and there was so many other elements besides a static image. So I think, you know, I really enjoyed that and I almost pursued getting my master's in it, and I kind of stepped back from that because, you know, there's something that, you know, sitting inside of After Effects for hours and hours and hours, I just didn't get the enjoyment from, you know, and I think that reason alone, you know, made me kind of step back from that medium. And, you know, but as far as other, you know, mediums, I'm just always trying to work and play with stuff. So far, nothing else.
I see some new people are popping up in the chat. I want to thank Threadless really quick for tweeting about this event twice today. That was really rad. Hello, 2 million Threadless followers. I want to remind people you can ask questions, but if you're not able to, that means you're not signed in. So sign in with Facebook. We just heard that that's working. The Twitter OAuth is a little off. I don't know why it's not working, but you can sign in with Facebook or go to vocal.com, sign an account, come back, use your arrow and point and click. See, I always get screwed up because the image is reversed. Freaks me out, man. That arrow freaks me out, especially when you do that. Never do that again, by the way.
All right.
Yeah, so if you sign in, that means you can ask questions. There's a red submit a question button. Please ask questions. We're going to take them all night. We're going to go all night, by the way. This is a 24-hour marathon. I hope you know that. Okay. Click, and all of a sudden he's gone. The screen goes blank. Question from Mr. Derek Rigby wants to know, David, other than you, who is your favorite Threadless artist?
Oh boy, I have to do that online.
Yes, now I'm holding a gun to your head.
Well, I think there's no question. I mean, I think I have so many friends that I've made through the years on Threadless, but I think it would have to be Phil Jones. Murray Mullet, I'm sure everybody of you know, but he's somebody that I've always worked so closely with, and we've thrown stuff back and forth, and you know, I think we've seen each other grow, you know, as artists, and I think he's definitely, you know, like my top buddy. So, yeah.
What kind of work does he do?
He mixes it up too. He does a lot of experimental work, you know, illustration, design, you know, art direction. I think I enjoy, you know, talking and working with him so much because we are similar in that way, you know, and you know, the whole lines are blurred, you know, for both of us, and I think that's why, you know, we both work the same way. So, yes.
Good question, M. Derek Rigby. I think I called you Mr. Derek. I could be wrong. Leigh Finnegan wants to know, do you ever get overwhelmed with ideas and self-initiated projects that you really want to make? Are you just so awesome that you can't contain yourself?
No, well, so I always have a running scroll, whether it's a field notes of just, I'm sitting and I see something and I just come up with an idea, I scribble it down, or it's on my iPhone and I have this notes thing. My girlfriend Jess can attest to this, and I'm always just like pulling it up and like typing something in, and eventually I'll go back to those things and kind of look through it and be like, oh yeah, I really want to make that today. So it's kind of like I make my own like list, and I kind of decide when I want to make things or when I just want to relax and not do anything. So I think it really depends on how I'm feeling, and if I want to make something, then I'll make something. If I don't, then I'll just sit on the couch.
So you don't put pressure on yourself. You're not like, oh, if I don't make anything today, I'm shit.
No. I think when I was going through that Make Something Cool Everyday project, there was a lot more of that pressure, but now, I don't have that pressure, so I just make stuff when I want to. So it's more fun.
Couple more questions coming up from the chat room. Jeff Guerrero says, hi, David. What can you offer that other designers can't?
Well, wow, let's see. I suppose I always am, like, the core of what I do is always the concept, and it's the idea. And I think that is something that I always try to focus on. So I feel like whenever I'm working on client work or whatever, like that's what I'm always focused on. That's what I get excited about. And I think that concepts always prevail, like just something that looks pretty is what I feel. So I don't just make stuff pretty. I make an idea and a concept, and then I make it pretty.
Mitch in the chat room said alcohol in a coffee cup. Bing. Yeah, you always hear that common sort of misconception that designers just make things pretty. We get to draw all day, and that's the end of the story, right? But you're proof positive that if your artwork has a strong conceptual background, well, yeah, that's going to resonate more with people than something that just it's frilly and pretty. That's the garbage of the design world. You can even make an argument that the pretty frilly stuff with no substance is uglier than ugly design, because ugly design at least kind of makes you think and makes you react. But the pretty without substance is just kind of like scroll past it.
Yep.
Jeff Carrero with another good question. Who is your dream client to work with?
I think I've worked with a lot of clients, at different agencies, and, I've worked on Apple stuff. I've worked on, Benjamin Moore. I did the package design for some of their paint, and like my favorite clients actually are the ones that aren't very established, because when you work, I'm not ruling out any of these clients now, so I'm not shooting myself in the foot. But I do really enjoy working with clients that aren't very established, and they come to you at the beginning of the process, and they want you to help, bring their brand to life. And I think that there's a lot of nice freedom to that, and you're able to, start at the very base level of their identity and who they are, and then carry that through with, every other aspect. And I think I really enjoy, working on those types of projects the most.
So the opposite of that question is when a big client comes to you and says, I'm going to give you a truckload of money to work on our big brand. Is that selling out?
Well, there are these things called bills, and food, it's good. I'm not going to take on a project that, I don't feel like I would be bringing, my best to, just because they're throwing, just because of the money. So I think that I definitely take that into effect, or, you know, into my whole process. And I think that, you know, if I feel like I can be, you know, the right fit for it, then yeah, I will take that.
Patrick McGovern wants to know, we require details on your Labradoodle.
Oh boy. Well, well, I do have a dog. Her name is Daisy, and she does happen to be a Labradoodle, which is a lab and a poodle mix, if you don't know. And I usually don't call her a Labradoodle. I just call her a shaggy-haired lab. You know, it's just more guy-like. But I think that is the extent to the dog. So I don't know.
There was this great post. It was an interview with David, and they had mentioned that you had a Labradoodle, and then they had this great photo, this really, you know, sort of like frame, like what you see in the when you buy the frame kind of photo, and then a small little caption like 6-point type. This is not David's Labradoodle.
Yeah, yeah, that definitely was not.
Brilliant.
Mine is definitely she's a great dog. So yeah, that was not my dog.
Sorry, I'm trying to read the chat room. I'm doing what I tell people not to do during the chat. I'm trying to read shit and talk to you at the same time. I obviously cannot handle that. So let's take another question from the audience. Dan Matthew wants to know, being a Midwesterner, do you feel that you miss out on the LA, New York, Chicago scene, galleries, and events?
No. I feel that Minneapolis is a great art culture. You know, I think that you know, it has a great music scene, it has a great art scene, and I feel like Minneapolis as a whole, I think, is great for fostering, you know, a good group of creative people. And I feel like there are a lot of great artists that are based here, you know, Phil Jones, you know, Brock Davis, and, you know, the list goes on of all these other people that, you know, you grow from and you hang out with, you get inspired by. So, you know, the coast is always there, though. So if I want to go and hang out, then just go jump on a plane and, you know, go check it out. But no, I feel like I think it's a great culture here. So
It kind of seems like Minneapolis, I mean, it doesn't get a lot of like the same kind of recognition that these other cities do as far as its design and art culture, right? I mean, I've never really understood that because, you know, there is such a concentration of it in Minneapolis. Unless you've been there, you know somebody who came from there, it doesn't really seem to get a lot of national coverage, no?
yeah, it's not on most of the world's radar. So it's definitely one of those hidden gems that once you visit it, you know, I think it's a great place. But I guess it's our just best, you know, kept secret at the point. So
I would argue that if Minneapolis's average yearly temperature was 20 degrees higher than it is, just 20 degrees, this would be a very different story.
Exactly. It would probably be double the size, and it wouldn't be what it is, you know. So, and I've lived here my whole life, so I feel like I have a very thick Minnesota skin, and it definitely helps to get through the winters because it is terribly cold.
Now, it's hard to believe because you don't have the Minnesota accent.
No, I don't, and I've been told that a lot. I think it comes from my mother was an editor at a magazine, just a, you know, magazine up north, and she was always very, you know, strict about grammar and just the way you talk and don't talk like a Minnesotan. So I think that I was very instilled in that sort of upbringing. So
Even better is what you can probably do is have it in your pocket and pull it out whenever you want.
yeah, it's always there, but I don't know. I don't enjoy it that much, and I really don't like those movies like Fargo that it's just terrible. I don't enjoy that. You know, it's because
It's a great party trick.
yes.
Gary Holmes wants to know, David, how do you manage a biz, social media, personal life? Too much to do?
Let's see. Social media, personal life, too much to do. You know, it's definitely a balance. I think I try to find that life balance of, working, on client work, working on fun work, and, the social media I try to use to help, disperse like the stuff I'm making just to the internets. And, I think it's all about balance. It's about just trying to find that right balance of not getting too burnt out and still enjoying life. So I think that most of the time I can find that balance, but I definitely, people can attest that I might get burnt out at times. So.
Leigh Finnegan, who asked a question earlier about the abundance of ideas, says, thanks for the answer. Do you use apps like Evernote and Clear? What apps do you like using?
All right. I have no idea what those apps are, so I don't use those too, but I use Instagram. I'm very addicted to Instagram. Jess can attest to that, my girlfriend. And what else? Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr. I don't know, the usual package of, assorted social media ones. But yeah.
This is Clear. I'm a big fan of Clear, and Clear is another notes app. And what happens is, so you've got these different lists that you get to make, and let's see, groceries. Well, no, I don't want to show that one. There's embarrassing things on there. House projects. So what it does is it shows, so as you make a new item, you drag it down, and then type it in.
You put the hot items on top.
Yeah, exactly. And it changes your color, right? And then you just swipe to get back down to the next level. It's pretty slick. That's the thing, like, I really like that type of interaction and everything, but the thing I think this one is missing, and maybe it's upgraded since the last time you used it, I don't know, is that for me, notes apps, like, they have to sync in between all your devices. Like, if I'm out and about and I'm taking notes on my phone, when I sit down on my computer, I want to be able to bring up that list and check stuff off or add stuff to it. And like vice versa, it should go back to your phone. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the latest version of iOS, iOS 6, there's supposed to be a native notes app that does that between your desktop and your phone. Is that right? Does anybody in the chat room know?
It syncs with OS Mail.
Patrick is telling me that it syncs with OS X Mail, which is a little weird. Evernote does. All right, well, Leigh, I got to get back on Evernote. Simple Note syncs with everything. All right, I'm writing this shit down. Evernote and
another great app though, since I live in Minnesota, and the weather app Solar. If any of you use that one, it's beautiful. All it is a gradient of color, and it just says the degrees, and you can switch between different cities. It's a very great app.
So. And it's just called Solar?
Solar.
Now, in the chat room, I always like to ask this question. Name, if you've got a favorite app that's like design related, maybe it's a design game or something like that, throw it out there. I don't have anything noteworthy to sort of, well, we did Mixel. We talked about Mixel before. What was the other one I was just, here's the one I'm totally in love with. Cinemagram. Cinemagram is really cool. So what it does is it takes your video. You can shoot video in it, or you can pick a video you already have, and then you can change that video into an animated GIF. And then there's options. You can have it play in one direction. You can have it oscillate back and forth. It's always better if you sort of have the video still, because you can highlight one section of your video and only have that one thing animate. So it looks like those Harry Potter framed photos that have, somebody looking at you, but the drape is just sort of going in the background.
Yeah, I use that for a little bit. It's fun. It's fun to play around with. Like you move your one eye, and then you just have that the only thing that's moving in the photo. It's fun. I wished it was more integrated with Instagram, or if there was a function to integrate it with Instagram somehow. Just because I'm always in Instagram. So.
Yeah, if they partnered somehow, and you can publish those to your Instagram feed, that would blow people's minds.
Yes.
Mitch Goldstein, another good question. What are your thoughts on Threadless and crowdsourcing design?
Yeah, that's definitely a question that I've actually been talking about a lot to people about, and I mean, because at its core roots, you know, Threadless is a form of crowdsourcing. Artists bring their designs and they pick the ones that they want to print. But I feel like a lot of places are looking at Threadless as this model of crowdsourcing, and everybody is, you know, wondering like, why is it so good, and why is it like so, you know, so like you know, thought well of. And I think it's because of the community of, you know, different artists. And I think that if it didn't have the community of people that are collaborating and talking about design and working, you know, together and just always talking inside the blogs and the chat, I feel like it wouldn't have, you know, it would just feel like crowdsourcing, you know, with every other, you know, crowdsourcing thing out there. But I feel like since it does have that community at its core, I feel like that's why it's lasted this long. That's why it's so popular, and that's why so many artists just love, you know, being a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense.
It totally does. I mean, there's all sorts of levels, and you know, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said the community is the sort of core part that holds that together and makes that sort of economic endeavor justified, right? Because it's not the 99 designs where there's all these people submitting designs and, you know, doing all this work, and only, you know, I'm totally making this up, by the way. I don't know this to be a fact, but it seems like only a small percentage of those people actually get paid. And then you have the whole discussion about how, you know, that's sort of a, you know, you end up seeing a lot of lower level sort of work there. It's not really a high tier community.
Yeah, well, the work that you get paid are the ones that they actually print. So a lot of people submit, but once you actually get printed and they make a shirt out of it, that's when you actually get, you know, that big paycheck. And, you know, I feel like they are very generous with their artists. So I think that, you know, compared to other, you know, t-shirt websites out there or whatever, I feel like they're the ones that are, you know, they're generous. They, you know, they take care of their artists, and I feel like that's why, you know, we feel like we want to keep, you know, being a part of Threadless. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gabe Pyle wants to know, do you wear the tees you design, or do you always dress so professionally?
I have been guilty of wearing my own designs, but it's this feeling of, I guess, when, you know, you're in a band and you wear your own, you know, you listen to your own music or you wear your own shirt. It's just this, it's a gross feeling. So I will not do it anymore. And recently I don't wear as many graphic tees, you know. I like my V-necks. I like my, you know, dress shirts. I guess I'm just dressing up more. So it's just kind of what I feel comfortable in. So that is all.
And we're talking a lot about the t-shirt design work that you do, but I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that obviously you've participated in and made a career out of. So what are, you know, other types of design that you really sort of, you know, makes you light up?
Yeah, so recently I haven't been doing as many t-shirt designs. I've had a couple designs that were older Threadless designs, and they decided to have them printed, and they're being sold at Gap stores. So I haven't been making more t-shirts, but I've been doing a lot more editorial illustrations. And I think that work is really getting me excited, and I really love working on that sort of, you know, those projects. And I feel like, you know, working for Wired, I did some stuff for Fast Company, and then recently for The Chronicle, which is a higher education magazine. But I love working on those projects because, you know, there is that freedom that I kind of felt when I was doing the you know, all those self-promoted projects or the stuff for myself. I feel like I have that freedom, you know, and they keep it wide open, and then they, you know, they might hone me in on certain things, but there's a lot more freedom when I work on those projects. So I think that I still enjoy that. You know, it helps that they pay, so that helps, you know, obviously pay bills and whatnot.
Speaking of freedom, Gabe in the chat room wants to know if you're wearing pants.
I am not wearing pants. I'm wearing shorts. So I'm wearing something. Come on. Come on. Come on. It's not. Yeah. Let's keep it.
This is
clean
a family
here.
safe, people. Be responsible.
Yes. Come on. Come on, Gabe.
What's the weirdest request you've gotten from a client? Asks Jeff Guerrero.
Oh, besides making the client or making the logo ginormous.
Right.
I don't know if I have too many weird requests from clients. There's always the, you know, I just, it bugs me when they're so subjective about the stuff they want changed, you know, like, you know, I just don't like the color purple, or I don't feel like this is good, or, you know, and you come up with all these conceptual ideas of why you pick stuff, and then they just, at the end of the day, they're the client, and they're the ones that are paying for it. So you can't just like keep it a closed door. You do have to have a, you know, a give and take of these things, but I don't know. There hasn't been a lot of weird, crazy requests, I guess.
Has there ever been a situation where you flat out refused to make a change that was requested?
No, I don't think so. I think I always try to, if there's something that I really don't agree with, I will definitely bring it up, and 9 times out of 10, there can be some sort of, you know, agreement worked between, you know, and say, you know, this is the reason, you know, I'm not just picking this font, or I'm not just picking this color, or whatever it is. And I feel like most of the time you can come to some sort of agreement, and
yeah. Dan Matthews wants to know, what's your favorite analogy to explain to clients that you can't rush creativity?
Well, best analogy, I suppose when you know, it's like when you're making food, or whatever you're doing. You know, you can't just, it's going to be so much better if you just like actually cut up all the vegetables and do everything by hand and just do it the right way, rather than throwing in a freezer meal that is done in like 1 minute. You know, like that's what I think about when I see all these websites of, you know, have a logo design for $50, you know, like that's just like those are freezer meals, and I just feel like it just, you might get a logo for $50, but it's gonna look like you got a logo for $50, you know. And I feel like you get what you pay for, you know. And I think there's always that thing, you can have 2 of the 3 elements. You can have it, you know, there's good, fast, and cheap, and you can have 2 out of the 3. So I think that's something that I always try to keep in mind. So.
The one I like to use is, you know, it's similar to building a house. You know, all right, so your client wants to build a house. Okay, well, what are you required to build if a computer was building a house, what would it need to know? Okay, floor, 4 walls, roof, and you need a door to get in and out. That's a house. Here's your house. Congratulations. Or, you know, is it a mansion with a pool, indoor heated, you know, solar tiles, big grand, you know, 10-foot tall wood door? You know, you're going to pay different prices. So yes, it qualifies as a house. Yes, it qualifies as a logo.
Right.
But, you know, what sort of experience are you going to get out of it? You know, I like to use that one.
Yep.
Tons of questions. I'm really happy that we're getting such a high participation tonight. I want to thank all you guys for coming. We've got about 10 minutes left before we wrap up the chat. We're going to rush through these questions as fast as we can. I also want to remind you guys that this is also a podcast. So if you go on iTunes and you search for DesignChat, one word, DesignChat, you can subscribe to either the video or the audio. And you know, every time we upload a new show, it'll show up there. We've, you know, recently had an influx. A lot of more people are subscribing. I'm really thankful for that. Guys, keep on telling your friends about it, share it with everybody, and help sort of grow this design community, because I think it's a lot of fun, and I think you guys will get a lot out of it too. So we're going to rush through these questions really quick. Mr. Derek Rigby, I'm just calling him Mr. because I want to. Are you constantly asked if you design whatever shirt you're wearing?
Yes.
Do you hate people when they ask that? Do you punch them in the face?
Maybe that's why I don't wear as many graphic tees anymore. Because when I go to work at agencies or yeah, wherever, they're just like, oh yeah, yeah, you designed those T-shirts. Oh, did you do that one? And I'm always just like, no, no, no.
So the next T-shirt you design is going to say, "No, I didn't design this T-shirt."
Oh, I would love that. I'll let it bold. I'm gonna make it tonight.
Nice. Great question, Derek B. Gary Holmes wants to know, can you quickly share the ideation behind sandwiches?
So,
describe the project for those that don't know it.
All right. So the first one that started was Burger Vetica, and that was a burger made out of Helvetica, and each different ingredients was the color of what the ingredients is, and it just said like bun, lettuce, tomato, beef, cheese, and then bun. So I was making these typographic sandwiches just using type and color, and I really enjoyed it, and I think that just creating these typographic pieces of work is just, it was freeing, it was fun. There wasn't a lot with ideation process. Basically, I would think of different sandwiches that I wanted to make out of typography, and then I would make it.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
And the type choice couldn't have been more perfect, right? Because like Helvetica Bold is like the sandwich of typography.
Yeah, it's I do have a very special spot in my heart for Helvetica, and I think a lot of people know that. So I think it was kind of an obvious choice. So yes.
Where do good ideas come from? Right behind you. See, you got screwed up. Right there.
Confusing.
A few more questions. Leigh Finnegan, favorite film? We're going to get to favorite color next.
Oh, boy. Favorite film would have to be probably a Wes Anderson. Any of his I really enjoy. I think just because every detail is just looked at on, like I just saw the Moonrise Kingdom, I think it was. Great movie, just great colors, great art direction. I think I just love movies that spend so much time in, every little detail of the movie.
7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, that movie had a whole bunch of typography from Jessica Hische, correct? That was the same one, right?
The Moonrise Kingdom?
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, she did all the type, and I listened to her give a speech when she came to attack a target, and he was working with her on every single like revision and change, and like just knowing that he's that involved to the typography, in his movies, like I just really enjoy that. So when I heard that, it just made me obviously want to watch the movie and just enjoy it even more.
So Jessica has been on the show before, and today I just booked a guy named Eric Marinovich, who partners with her out in San Francisco. Yep. The name of their group is escaping me right now, but they just started partnering last year. He's also the co-founder of Friends of Type. Yeah, that's what it is, Friends of Type.
Yeah, yeah.
There you go. So he's going to be on November 17th. I could be wrong about that because I've got the worst memory in the world. Upcoming, let's check your stats. Yeah, November 7th, Eric Marinovich, Friends of His. So book your calendars, right? A few more questions. Jeff, that question is just silly. As a 17, wait, so of course I took it. Jeff Guerrero, do you think rubbing Phil Jones's bald head brings good luck? Well, rubbing any man's bald head brings good luck, but you should ask them first.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it brings more than good luck. It brings just good things.
Static electricity.
Yes.
Fisher Adelkin, as a 17-year-old, what is the best way I can get started with design? A young Fisher Adelkin.
I think just, try to find things that you really enjoy making. Spend a lot of time, researching and just, seeing what inspires you, and mostly have fun. Because if you don't have fun, it's boring work. And
yep.
Like I'm almost 30, and I still look at this as fun. So just try to have fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's great advice. You know, it's one of those things, you know, the design field has a lot of different types of jobs, and it seems like every day there's more and more things that you can apply design to. And some people that, you know, will define it differently. You could say you're designing your life. If you look at CUSP conference, which we talk a lot about here, it's about the design of everything. And, you know, you can really apply it to any field you want. So it's a pretty broad topic, but if you want to get started in graphic design, you know, for me, it's work your butt off. Make as many things as you can. Make, until you realize, you know, you start learning how to make things, and then you can get really good at, you know, the ideas behind why you're making things. You know, that's a whole other level of achievement, right? You get up to level at that point, and it's not just making things pretty. It's making things that actually are relevant to people and maybe, you know, change people's lives. That's my rah-rah moment for the night. I'm done. So it's 9 o'clock. We've got to wrap up. We could keep on taking questions all night, I'm sure. But that is the end of Design Chat. It's been a lovely hour with all of you people. Thank you again to Threadless for tweeting about it and bringing, I'm sure, a lot of you guys here. Real quick in the chat room, throw up your Twitter handle or maybe a link to a website, maybe not a link, because links don't work right now. But tell people where we can follow you and find out, you know, everybody in the chat room, what you guys are doing. Schwen.com is where David's at. David, you got a Twitter handle too?
It's Schwen.
Schwen, at Schwen. Where we will be looking to see many more amazing designs, not necessarily t-shirts. Except for the t-shirt that says, no, I didn't design this. You have to friggin' do that because it's amazing.
I'm going to do that.
Done. Done. All right. Next week, we do not have anybody scheduled. It is Wednesday the 31st, which is Halloween. So maybe we get somebody scheduled, maybe we don't. I hope we do. If you guys can think of someone or know someone who wants to be on the show, please tweet at me, at Hoopajube or at DesignChat. I will respond to both. I'm a nice guy like that, really. And until then, we will see you later. Tell everybody about Design Chat. Thank you again to David.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks,
Bye.
man. See ya.